Steve, good afternoon. Welcome back to the latest Friday at 4 podcast series by Q.A.C. team. How are you?
All right. How are you today? Love
Doing
it.
fantastic, man.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah, super excited. I'm glad you're still doing good and things are going with the shoulder.
They're getting better. A little bit every day.
There you go.
As my uncle way back when, because he had all kinds of physical challenges. And his line was, bring me in, fix me, and send me back out.
There you go.
And I'm saying the same thing. Had a challenge, can be fixed. It's in process, and then send me back out.
Send you back out. Love it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here as
Absolutely.
always with you. So,
Yeah, it's exciting. I love this, man. This Friday gig is really I don't know how we're going to top last Friday, man. That was a good one. If our listeners haven't heard that one yet or watched, they really need to. I'm going to start putting it out there because it was a good one.
yeah,
So let's see what you got today. See what we can do. What do you got?
we're working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that somebody mentioned, some very wise person mentioned that we might want to talk about today. Oh, and by the way, that wise person was you. Anyway, when somebody, because I know I was in corporate for 30 plus years and even a little after that. But there's always the question of, and it's a two-sided question. As an employee, what are you looking for in the potential employer? And the other side of that says, as an employer, what are you looking for from the employee? And there is no 100% right or wrong answer because every person is different, every employer is different. So we can start out, and again, it doesn't matter which side of the coin we start on, but as an employer, what are you looking for in the employee? Now, depending on how technical the position is in whatever field, you probably want to look for a degree, a 4-year degree. You probably want to look for maybe some experience, either summer internships or something else, because the technical positions usually mean more training, which translates to more time, which translates to more paid to you before you're now productive and earning money for the company.
Yeah.
So part of it is again, if it's technical, what type of experience and or degrees do you have?
Hmm.
If it's a non-technical position, companies are more likely to say, okay, do you have a degree? Great. If not, that's okay, depending on what it is, because again, it's the non-technical. And at
Yeah.
that point, they may put you through some type of aptitude test. Can you add one and one without a calculator? Can you read basic things and remember what you retain or what you read?
Hmm.
Um, can you put a puzzle together, basic puzzles, so you understand how things fit together? Again, every
Yeah.
company, every employee is different.
Yeah. And
Now
that's one
that,
thing I wanted to mention as well was um, going back to talking about every employer is different, right? So everybody's goals are different. So I would venture to say, you know, I mean, I'm going back to like 2000 when I interviewed and into the corporate world. I had to take a test.
Mhm,
If I passed the test, I got an interview, talked to somebody. I went through 3 interviews.
mhm,
Once I got accepted, took the job, then each step of the way through that job, I had to take a test and
right,
I could only fail one. And if I failed the final, I could
mhm,
I could take it one more time or I didn't get the
right.
job. But I don't know if that's still is relevant today, but I know that company that I worked for, they did away with those testing because I think they got sued because some reason it wasn't fair. So is that something that's still going today? What is your take on that?
I'm not sure if they still do testing. Um, but one of the things that I know they do in many companies is you still go through your two, three, 4 rounds of interviews. But what they've over time, employers have gotten wise because they realize their time is valuable. They don't care about you. Their time is seriously,
Mhm.
their time is
Isn't that the
valuable.
truth?
So what they'll do is if you're going to go through 3 interviews, person number one may ask you 7 questions, specific targeted questions. If you are now done and the interviewer leaves the room, person two comes in. They will ask you 7 questions. One or two may be the same. One or two may be worded differently, but getting the same result with your answer, and then some new
Yeah,
questions.
yeah,
And then the third person does the same thing. Now, after each person finishes, they take your answers and they put them into some type of computer program and they score them and rank them and do all kinds of whatever stuff they do behind the scenes.
yeah,
At the end of those 3 sets of questions, they're going to have a good idea whether you can or cannot do the job, fit into the group,
yeah,
really care about the company. They're doing this stuff. Whether you know it or not, they're doing this stuff.
yeah,
Because if they make an offer to you, most companies have a 3 month window where they can basically let you go for cause within 3 months. Because once they're more than 3 months, then it becomes an HR issue, it becomes an unemployment issue, and all those things. But if they want to do something and try you out for 3 months, yeah, it's only 3 months from their perspective. It's only 3 months, but it's 3 months. Do they have the right candidate?
mm,
Because then again, they're paying the salary. They're hoping to get an end result, which they may or may not get. But if they
mm,
have the right candidate, then they're ahead of the game because they know they're getting better results at the end, or at
yeah,
least the potential to get better results at the end. So
right,
it really is iffy. Um, and one of the things we talked about one of the previous episodes, just because you're in that room being interviewed and they're asking you all these questions, and again, there's certain things they can and can't legally, but assuming that's all legal, most people sit there and say, okay, thank you. I want to work for your company. How do you know that? How do you know that?
yeah.
You're
Great
looking up,
question.
you're looking up on the internet that XYZ company is a great place to work based on what?
Yeah,
You don't know. Now, there is a site out there called I believe it's called glassdoor.com. And that's where people anonymously can put in their comments about a
right.
company.
Mhm.
So, yes, great company spent 4 years, left for a better opportunity, but they were there 4 years. You could have another one that says, company is not good, management is not good, pays below grade, stay away.
Or my example, right? I got my life and health insurance license. I lasted 2 months because I realized this company was not for me.
Right.
2 months,
And that
Steve, 2 months.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's what you want. And
yeah,
my caution for that is if you look at a site like glassdoor.com, don't just look at 1 or 2 posts or reviews. Read a whole bunch. Because if you only look at 1 or 2 and that 1 or 2 people had the bad experience,
yeah.
it's going to turn you away. But if you look at the other 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 that are out there, they may all say good. So always discount the 1 or 2 worst and discount the 1 or 2 best and look at
Now,
the
I
in between.
This is interesting. Now you're giving me a whole angle on my business here. Now, do I have to go work for all these companies to get my own professional reviews on how to work for these places?
Nah, nah. But you should
What a
ask
job that
around.
would be, right?
That would be tough. That would be
That would
tough.
be that would be a tough one.
Yeah, but ask around.
Yeah.
The employer is asking you all kinds of stuff, but you have the same right to ask them. What type of training programs do you have?
Hmm.
Um, is this a new position or a refill of an existing position? Can I talk to somebody in the department? Um, is there written criteria for promotions? It shows that you're interested, but you also want a career. You're telling them without telling them, I'm not going to be here 6 months and leave.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. The other side of this whole coin is as an employee, and you're going to, and we kind of talked about this a little bit, you're an employee going to a company. Again, do your research. Do you want it? Have you done research to know what they do, what their turnover is? How many people are being either they quit, they get fired. What's the turnover of employees? What's the salary ranges? Because the worst thing you want to do, and I'm completely guilty of this, I did not do this. And in my working career, I would go to a company, they would say to me, okay, this is the salary. And if I wanted it, I would say, okay. I did not do the research. Now, granted, this was before the internet, the days of the covered wagons when information wasn't as available.
U.S. Postal Mail.
Exactly. The drums, smoke signals. But if you have that information and again, I'm just throwing random numbers out here. If you do the research and find that the average starting salary is $50,000 and they offer you 40, and you believe that you have the experience and everything else, you could say to them, I've done my research. The average starting salary in this industry, the average starting salary in the company is 50,000. Is there any reason why you're offering so low? And you have to be prepared if you're going to do this. You have to be prepared. If they say no, it's 40 or nothing, you have to be prepared to get up and walk out.
Yeah, the whole salary negotiation thing, that's a whole other topic because,
It's a whole, yep,
like you said, yeah, you got to really do your research on what they're paying, what they were paying, and what they're telling you. Because I've been on the end of a major corporation that whispered to me, well, this is what we're paying, but don't tell anybody else because we're paying you more than anybody else. But yet I heard that speech from 10 other employees that were
right.
hired the same time I was. I say, well, wait a minute, you told me to say anything. And wait a minute, you're getting paid what I'm getting paid. Well, that's crazy, It
There
happens.
are laws out there, and I'm not sure if it's just New York or it's across the country where they have to disclose what they're paying people. It can no longer, so to the situation you just went into, they can no longer say, hey, Chuck, the average salary is 30. We're giving you 35. You can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
That doesn't fly anymore because
Yeah,
you
this was
can then go to somebody.
2015, so you might be correct because that's been some time ago. So
Yes,
yeah,
it has been.
they, yeah, so that could have been,
Yeah, because,
prior to this law, right? That
yep,
this disclosing of this
yep. Because what was
salary now.
happening,
Yeah.
yeah, what's happening is, and it happened to me, if you start with a company and you like it for X number of reasons, you like it and you stay, the longer you stay with a company, the further you fall behind the going salaries. So companies were sitting there and saying, oh, I hired Steve at 50. 10 years later, he's making 60.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not good, but okay. But then Charles comes along, applies their position, and they offer him 75. How does Steve feel? I've been there 10 years. I know the company. I know the people. I have the relationships. I'm a proven performer. And you're offering Charles, who's an unknown quantity, 15,000 more than me? If I had another job, I'd be gone tomorrow.
That's one of the main reasons why I walked away
Yeah,
was, no raises in the past 4 years,
right.
salary never increased, cost of living going up, health care going up. I was
Yep,
making less money by staying there.
right.
Therefore, I said, you know what? I'm losing money. I may as well just
Mhm.
find something else.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what the law that was passed is all about.
Yeah.
Some type of equality. Now, the challenge, of course, to the company is if they're going to bring in somebody new who really, based on current salary brackets, should get that 75,
Mm.
you have to be prepared as a company to increase everybody else's salaries upwards. So there's some type of parity. Because if
Yeah.
you don't, you risk a lot of people leaving at the same time, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's part of what happened during my era, in the corporate world. And I was part of that, and I
Mhm.
walked away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But again, we will go back for a second to the employee, potential employee looking to go into a company. It goes back again. What are you bringing to the table? If the job requires either a 4-year degree or somebody in process of, and you just have a high school diploma, what do you have that compensates for the lack of college? If they want 2 years of experience and you have 6 months or none, what else do you have that compensates to be offered that position?
Yeah, I know there were some talks about this is prior to COVID. There
Mhm.
were talks about you won't get hired unless you have a 4-year degree.
Right.
Um, they didn't care about experience. The degree was the thing. So after COVID, this push came to where it didn't matter whether you have a degree or not. We look at experience now. So they've opened up the field because I'm sure it was hard to get people to
Yes.
fill those seats in these companies. So it became a challenge. So they said, you know what, we got to open up the market. If you don't have a degree, it's okay. Apply anyway.
Yep.
Because people like me who don't have a degree were getting pushed away because I didn't have a degree. I didn't even get a chance for an interview because, well, you don't have
Mhm.
a 4-year degree. We're not talking to you. Huge problem, right?
It is a huge problem.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, um, the 4-year degree was required. Well, 4-year degree was a nice to have. Then it became the 4-year degree was required. Then it became a master's was a nice to have. Then it became the master's was required. And at some point there was talk about a PhD, and I think that got squashed because that's just like off the deep end.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
a little bit
saying
much,
I'm not saying PhDs are bad, but for the average job, really? So,
right?
but as you said, with COVID and other things, with college becoming more unaffordable and people can't apply anymore because they even with aid, they can't afford it. Um, so now it became experience. And what's happening to a lot of people, and again, I'm not suggesting you do this, but as an option, consider a 2-year trade school.
Yeah.
You'll come out in 2 years instead of four. They're significantly less expensive. So your loan at the end is much, much easier to pay off. And there
Yeah.
is such a demand for electricians, plumbers, auto mechanics that, and again, I'm not suggesting you ditch college and do that, but consider it as an option because I
Well, you
know
mean I can't sit on TikTok and make $1 million a year?
you can, but how many people will do that?
Right. What's
It's
the
it's
chance of that, right?
it's just like how many. So I'll give you an example. One of my good friends is a doctor, obviously name unmentioned. He works in the Bronx for years, and he said there's just a couple of ways out of the Bronx. Actually, he mentioned 4 ways out of the Bronx. One, you can be a rock star, J-Lo, whoever else that came out of the Bronx. How many people become a rock star? Two is you can become an athlete, but how many people make it to the pros?
Yeah.
Three is you become a drug dealer. Or
Yeah.
four, or four is you die at an early age because you get caught in a gun battle. But that's the options. So just because college is out there and everything else doesn't mean it's right for everybody. And over the last couple of years, if you do your research, the number of colleges that are closing is going up because as the population ages, as people and parents and kids realize it's super expensive, I'm going to go for 4 years, come out with a degree, maybe not get a job, but have that huge loan. Is it worth it? So now maybe they're going to trade school.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying school is bad. I have a 4 year degree, I have a master's, and for me, they worked well.
Yeah.
But not everybody is like me. And that's a good thing, but not everybody is like me. But what satisfies you? Sometimes maybe you need to go, and I've said this in other episodes, during high school, go work for somebody, even if you work for free. Try each summer to work for a different type of business that you think you like and
Yeah.
find out firsthand if it's just a nice thing or you really like it and can see yourself doing that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
to
It's
me.
sad. I heard a story yesterday from a young woman who was talking about she was managing some younger employees.
Hmm,
And she said the consensus across her employees were, what's the point
hmm,
of working? What's the point of going to college? What's the point of doing anything? And I thought that was sad, right? Because here you have this younger generation who was going to supersede us.
right,
These are
right.
coming behind us. And you would think that these people would be a little more engaged and understanding and wanting to do things to push the country and the world forward. But when you hear these things of what's the point, it's kind of sad.
But there's a
But I get it,
whole,
right? 'Cause college
yeah,
is so expensive,
yeah.
you know?
But there's a whole generation of different attitudes, different approaches. Younger people are saying, hey, I see my parents working crazy hours, just getting by. Um, and then they say, why do I want to do that? I want
Yeah,
something different. I want to be able to retire sooner on my terms, not on somebody else's terms. I want to be able to get the better car, the better house, take the vacation, do whatever it is for you. And they're now saying, and by the way, I want to get paid a lot of money now without experience. Well,
without
first of all, that's not
experience.
happening. Okay. But
Right.
for the most part, it's not happening. But you're right. Something has to spur them to change the attitude. Having, and you have the same background, you worked for a company or companies, and then you swung out and you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons to both. I'm not telling you one way is better. It's not because it's not. But my suggestion is start as an entrepreneur. I'm sorry, start as an employee, get experience, save some money, get the work ethic, and then become an entrepreneur part-time. Something
Yeah, because we both know entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. This is very challenging. And if you
it
don't
is.
have that mentality, you will fail.
At 100%. And that's why I'm saying stay full-time, start part-time as an entrepreneur. Give it a few hours a week. So your commitment is less
Yeah, right.
time, money, whatever. If you like it and it starts to grow, do it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And if you get to that point that you really start to do well, then you make the decision of do you continue doing full time and an entrepreneur, or do you drop the full time?
Yeah.
Again,
First
everybody's
time around took
different.
me 5 years to make that decision.
Okay.
So
But it can be done.
yeah,
But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you also have to remember in most cases, regardless of what you want to do, in most cases, you're young, you look young, you talk young, you act young. Get the experience, get some friends, get some clients, start young. Once I equate it to, and I may have used this before, if you're at the top of a mountain and you have a little snowball and you push it, that snowball is going to roll down the hill and gain momentum and eventually could become an avalanche. But as a young person first
yeah,
coming out, you're at the top with the snowball. You have not yet earned the right, in most cases, to push it down the hill. It takes time. I don't know how much time that is, but it takes the time. But once you get going and you have the dedication, there's no limit to what you can do as an entrepreneur. None.
I think, from my standpoint, what I've been through, I think if people work for a company, listen to what that company wants you to do, follow their rules, learn what they're doing. So you add it to your resume, your
Mhm.
repertoire of things you do.
Right.
And then as you move around from job to job, you pick up these extra skills and
Mhm.
then you start to see what you're good at. You get to see where you're excelling and where you need help at. And then you can see whether stay with a job or maybe entrepreneurship is for me, maybe it's not, maybe I stick to this type of work. And as you grow through a company, you grow through your life, you can really pick up and hone the skills that you find that are really for you.
It takes a lot, but like you said, pick up. When I was again, in corporate for so many years, I was out of college at 23. And again, I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I hadn't yet found myself and who I wanted to be. So I looked at every company I worked for and I looked at every manager that I had. And I tried to follow what I thought were the better points of each person. Were they kind? Were they caring? Did they provide training? How did they talk to me? As opposed to at me, did they talk to me? Um,
Yeah.
and all those things. And over the years, I came to realize, to what you said, what I wanted to be and what I did not want to be.
Yeah. Right.
And that's a
Yeah.
big, and you don't have that at 18, 20, 23. You may not even by 30, but it
Yeah.
has to start somewhere.
Yeah. I was very fortunate growing up that as I look back at what I've done through my life and my careers,
Mhm.
I was very fortunate to just fall into everything customer service. It was just in me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it followed me and I was able to really, you know, put out there that this is what I do. And every correct and incorrect job followed me with customer service to put me where I am today because it molded me.
Right.
Each job, as I grew with them, and as I grew away from them, it taught me that customer service is where I need to be, you know, and that's where I am today.
There you go.
So,
But you found it.
yeah,
A lot of people takes a little
yeah,
longer, but that's okay.
yeah. It took me a while, but as I look back, every job really pushed me in this direction because if I would have, for example, if I would have passed my Network Plus exam back in early 2000, 2001,
Hmm.
I would have been a network engineer working for a telecommunications company, but I failed that test. I look back at it, I failed that test for a reason because
Correct.
that's not what I'm meant to do.
Correct.
That's a thing I had to learn.
So I'll leave you with one final thought that watching a YouTube video today from my company, and the two founders of the company had a like a 35, 40 minute video that they put out. And one of them said, make every day a day to do something big
Mm,
for you, your family, whoever. Look at every day to do something big. Don't continue to accept status quo.
yeah, that's powerful because as I look at the end of my days every day before I journal, I always write down what I do and what I
Mm,
accomplished for today,
right.
but I never really thought about what did you do big today, you know? That's
Yep.
huge, Steve.
Yep. How do you step out of your comfort zone? What are you doing big to move you to the next level?
Yeah, I appreciate that because that really hit. When you said that, that really hit because
Mhm.
that's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
I haven't stepped out of my comfort zone in probably a week now, you know? Got to
Yep.
get there.
Yep.
And everybody that's watching and listening, do the same. What is it that you're wanting to do? Step out that comfort zone and make a change, right?
Yep. As we say every single week, Charles and I are here for you. This is, if you haven't figured it out by now, what we talk about is completely unscripted. It's real. When we don't make any of this stuff up, this is real.
That's what I
So
like about this, Steve. We just go with it, man. We
we
pick a
do,
subject and
we
we just
do.
want to help.
Yep. So if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, just want to kick something around, give us a holler. Um, Charles, your website is, oh, your email is,
Chuck at QACteam.com.
there you go. So
And
give us a
Steve,
holler at chuck@qacteam.com. What we're going to talk about, we promise you, is confidential. There's no cost for this. But if we can help you bounce ideas, give you whatever, that's what we're here for, is to
yeah,
help you.
yep. And how do we reach Steve?
Steve at stevekentfs.com.
Awesome. What another great conversation, Steve. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I'm
coming
excited.
on. Yeah, I'm gonna I gotta write that thought down because I think I'm gonna put that in the show notes as well. That's huge, man.
Yeah.
And I want you to make sure you text that to me, email it to me or something, because I really want our audience when they replay this and listen and watch, I
Mhm.
really want that to really stick and sink in because it's hit me pretty hard because that you just woke me up. That was huge. Thank you.
All right. I try. Well, again, it wasn't my line. I'll give credit to my two founders, not my, but the two founders of the company, but that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's good stuff.
All right. All right. We'll finish it up here. I really appreciate you coming on Friday at 4 podcast series because
It's 4 o'clock somewhere.
you nailed it. Awesome. Steve,
I'm
thanks
impressed. I
again.
got that right.
You got it right. Yes. Steve, thanks again. It's been a great pleasure having you on as my co-host.
You
I
too.
love it. I enjoy it. And we will talk soon.
You got it. Thanks, Charles.
Take
Take
care,
care.
buddy.
Bye.